Hey, what is going on, everyone? Thank you for joining me in this video. We are going to be breaking down the top 5 lures, in my opinion, for redfish in 2025. We're going to cover lures from hard plastics, soft plastics, new baits, and tried and true baits from the dead of winter all the way to the heat of summer. So let's get right on into it. So to start off, we're going to talk about Topwater Spooks. This right here is a Florida Fishing Products walker and a very similar profile, the OG Super Spook Jr. So I really like these two baits a lot because they're such a small profile, and redfish are not great at eating topwater. It's a ton of fun catching them on topwater, but the way that they are made to eat is from the bottom, not looking up, although they will smash topwater. And that's why I like a small presentation like this. It's very easy for them to fit in their mouth. And usually, this is one of the baits that I'm picking up earlier in the day. I've caught redfish from very first thing in the morning to straight up in the middle of the day. Sometimes it does not matter. It's a great search bait, and it is a lot of fun to toss this into big schools of redfish. If you come across a school of redfish, they will all just fight over a topwater lure. And it really doesn't matter what you throw in there a lot of the times because they're all competing with each other. And that is primarily when I'm throwing a topwater. Either that, or if it's high tide and I need a search bait, I need to locate fish and just see where they're at, I'm picking up a topwater, and this is definitely my favorite. So as we're moving along in this video, I just wanted to mention that as we get further and further up the list, they become more and more my go-to lures and just more popular lures to use in general for reds. So make sure to stick until the end. But that being said, topwater, I love topwater. Like I said, they kind of suck at eating it. It's more so just a fun bait to throw rather than the most effective, although there can be days where it is very effective. My number 4 bait is a 3-inch paddle tail. So preferably I use a 3-inch Z-Man minnows or a 3-inch NLBN paddle tail. They both basically accomplish the same thing. They're just small, easy meals, especially in the wintertime when those redfish are not looking for giant meals. They're not super hungry, more lethargic. These are great baits to throw, especially with a very small profile like this. It's very easy for them to eat. Both of these have great little wiggle action, gives enough action in the water for the fish to locate them, and isn't super big, super overbearing where you can kind of throw this all year. I mentioned that it's a great winter bait, but I have caught them in the summer with this. A 3-inch paddle tail is something that I consider pretty much an all year round bait. I'll either throw these sight casting or bouncing off the bottom, toss it out, let it hit the bottom, shallow or deeper water, does not matter, but toss it out there, and then a lot of the times I'll just give it little hops off the bottom, especially during the winter when fish are more lethargic. Rather than burning it back to the boat, trying to cover as much water as possible, I like to slow down with a 3-inch paddle tail like this, and it has proven to be very effective. So since we're on the topic of winter baits, another great small presentation is a Ned Rig. So what I have here is a crawfish Ned Rig made by Z-Man, and obviously a crawfish is freshwater. This is technically a freshwater bait. Redfish, at least in the area that I fish in the lower Bay of Virginia, they don't care. It mimics a crab or crustacean so well. And a Ned Rig essentially is a very small bait, very easy, small meal. And like I was talking about with the 3-inch paddle tail, bouncing it off the bottom, that is exactly what I am doing with a Ned Rig. Essentially, those claws are sticking up. There we go, focus, there we go. Those claws are sticking up because Z-Man's plastics are very buoyant, so they are sticking up, and you rig it with a jig head or a Ned Rig jig through the bottom. That way the weight's on the bottom, those claws are up, and again, bouncing off the bottom. You also can slow roll this, and there are many different Ned Rig presentations you can throw. This just happens to be one that I like a lot, especially because it imitates a crustacean very well. So getting into my number 2 lure, and it is a new lure that just came out this year and I absolutely fell in love with, especially that late summer fall bite, is the Z-Man Prawn Stars. This thing is as realistic as it gets to a shrimp. It's got the antennas, got the appendages, and it has a little bit of wiggle with that tail in the back. This I absolutely loved for sight fishing. They have 2 different sizes. This is the size that I prefer. They have lots of different colors. This is a fairly natural shrimp color right here. And I believe this is the 3.5-inch version. Either way, it's the smallest of the 2 that they make. And it's pretty perfect because it can fit really easy in a slot size, little over slot, under slot, in that range, in that redfish's mouth very easily. And shrimp are one of their largest forages. So this was absolutely killer for sight fishing at low tide and sight fishing in general. Basically any scenario that I've run into so far where I'm around redfish, they will eat it. And it's a lot of fun to throw. And yeah, high tide, low tide, especially low tide for sight fishing, an absolutely killer bait. And I almost forgot, this is not something that I use a lot. I have no shame in it. I just honestly suck at throwing them, but I would be remiss if I did not mention a popping cork, especially with a shrimp bait. You have, you know, 1 foot to 2 feet, depending on your depth, of leader coming out the back, attached, tied on to your shrimp lure, or could be a paddle tail. I know that shrimps are very popular with popping corks, and a lot of people love them, and I have tried. I just suck at using them, but like I said, I had to mention it. I haven't put enough time into using them, although I know that they are one of the most effective ways to catch redfish, speckled trout, and a bunch of other fish inshore. But yeah, the popping cork, especially with this guy here. I've heard very, very, very great things. Now let's get to my number 1 bait. It is not a secret bait whatsoever. One of the most popular baits on the market, and there's a reason for it. It just straight up gets bit. And that is the Z-Man 4-inch diesel minnows. These things are just tried and true, absolutely killer. I got out 2 different colors for you guys just to show you what I like to throw a lot. I have this brown color, which is the right stuff. This is absolutely killer for dirty water. That darker color, very opaque and dull with a little bit of sparkle, creates a very large shadow, or very pronounced shadow for those fish to see in dirtier water. And especially during the summertime, early fall, when that water isn't super clean, this is a killer bait, or killer color. Same with a white or any sort of lighter color. I prefer this in a little bit of cleaner water, although it will still work in dirty water. Those darker colors just seem to shine for me more so in the dirty water. Dark gold, stuff like that. This has a little bit of gold flake in here, so I'm sure this would get bit too, but white, shad, like a smoky shad color, things like that is what I prefer in cleaner water. Either way, the 4-inch Z-Man diesel minnow is definitely my absolute favorite. Basically all year, I may not throw it in the winter. Like I said, with the 3-inch, just a nice, easier, smaller profile for those fish to hone in on. With the 4-inch, I basically throw it the rest of the year, spring, summer, and fall. Just a great way to cover water by slow rolling it, bouncing off the bottom. There's a multitude of ways of how you can work the lure, whether you're slow rolling it like I've mentioned, or sight casting it, just giving it little ticks in front of a fish until you get it in front of it and get that fish to eat. It is absolutely killer. High tide, low tide, you really can't go wrong with it. And when all the rest of what is not working that I've brought up that's when I break out these guys, if I haven't already. Sometimes this is just what I will throw at redfish all day, and most of the time they will eat these no problem. But that is pretty much a wrap for this. I just wanted to get into some of my favorite redfish lures, especially with the Prawn Stars that just came out, a great new lure that I'm gonna be throwing a bunch in 2025, along with the rest of them. So I hope this helped you, especially if you're newer to inshore fishing. I would definitely pick up a pack of each of these lures. It'll help you catch more fish, and yeah, I appreciate you guys watching. So if you found it helpful, make sure to smash that like button and also subscribe, and I'll see you next time.